Hey y'all, it's Christy Cook from Teadoddles. This is my tutorial for my new Bumps and Scales Cowl. You can find it on the blog for free. You can also find a printable PDF. I released all that for free. I released it on October 31st, which I originally was hoping to have it released earlier, but October was a tough month. I also had a birthday in October, and it was Halloween, so I just decided to do it to spread the love, so to speak. Sometimes you gotta do that when things are tough to make things, make you feel better. Anyway. I'm going to show you how to do the first 6 rows. So this will cover, let's back up. This pattern is done corner to corner, but some of the blocks, which is what I'm going to call them, are bumps and scales, which is the name, which is actually a puff stitch and a sort of modified crocodile stitch. So I'm going to show you the first 6 rows, which is going to show you how to incorporate the puff stitch in there, and how to do the crocodile stitch in there, and how to do the boxes that go over the top of those, because it can be a little confusing. Let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to make my loop. Oh, and I did want to say, in the pattern, it says I'm using this, this is Karen Simply Soft Tweeds in Gray Heather. It is a worsted weight number 4. And I'm using a 4.5 millimeter hook, or G7, US terms, which I am in US, but I try to look at the numbers, because sometimes they have the same letter in a different number. This is what I put that I used a whole skein and part of a second. This is my second skein. And I have a good bit pulled out over here where I pulled out for my pictures on the blog. This is what I had left over. So I didn't use very much of this skein. I don't have a scale for the yarn or anything to weigh it. But this is, it just used a whole one of these. I know there's over 200 yards. All that's listed in the pattern, but so I didn't use very much of this. It's just, you can see I pulled from the center, so it's not, and you can see the other end looks pretty full still, so it didn't take very much. I was about 3 or 4 rows from the end, and then I still had to do the trim and slip stitch it together, so that was it just took a little bit more than a skein, which I wish it could have took just one skein. But yeah, if you leave off a couple of rows, you could probably get it done with a skein. But I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's gonna be very comfortable to wear as a cowl. But anywho, that I just wanted to say that before I started. So now let's get started. I like to leave a long tail to weave in when I start. Just putting a slip stitch in here. I know a lot of people make their slip stitch with their hook. I just never learned to do it that way, so I always do it this way. Alright, so if you ever done corner to corner crochet, most of the time they use double crochet or half double crochet. Well, I'm using a treble crochet or a triple crochet. I just like the way it looks. Gives a little more texture to me, and depending on the yarn you're using, I just like the look of it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 7 chains. Then we're going to wrap twice to start our first treble, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the beginning chain, the 5th chain from the hook. We're going to do a treble crochet. Alright, and then we're going to do one in the next 2 chains for a total of 3 trebles, and then that first chain always counts as 1 treble. So it's like you have 4 in a box. So now we've got our first, our first little box right here. So to start the next one, we just go, because the first 2 rows are just regular boxes. 1, 2, whoop. 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again we're gonna treble 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the hook, and then treble in the next 2 chains. All right. So you want this turned so that the chain 4 basically from the first box is on top, like this, and then you're going to slip stitch. I like to go into the chain and slip stitch into that chain. Okay, and now you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then we're gonna put 3 more trebles into this chain 4 space. Okay, so for the first one I go around the chain, 1, 2, and then for the second one I like to go through into the actual chain loop in between the stitches. It just keeps your stitches from sliding around so much. You don't have to do that. And then the last one I go around the chain again. Like I said, I do that to keep the stitches from moving, sliding so much. If you got one locked in and one around, it just keeps them from moving around so much. But there's our first 2 rows. So when you think about a row and corner to corner, the chart is going to be like this, but I put where you start and end on it. It's just so you can locate. I didn't put directions or numbers on there. It's just really to see where the bumps and scales go. So, because basically we're going to do, like, this is our row of regular box, and the next row will have a bump in it. And you always have a regular box on the edges. Then you'll have a row of regular boxes, then a row of scales, row of regular boxes, row of bumps, and it just goes back and forth like that. So this is the first 2 rows. And y'all, if this thread looks a little crazy and like it's splitting a lot, it's mostly because I've crocheted and pulled this out several times for pictures and things. I did really enjoy crocheting with this thread. Care and Simply Soft sometimes can be thinner than a regular worsted weight. I found this to be more like a worsted weight, I guess because of the tweeted part. And I really did enjoy crocheting with it. This thread is just splitting more because I've pulled it out several times. So, alright, let's go on to row 3. I'll start just like we did row 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Treble crochet in the 5th chain from the hook, and then in the next 2 chains, there we go. All right, turn. Well, you can turn before you do that or after you do it. It doesn't really matter. The box kind of rotates pretty good. So now you're going to slip stitch again into that first chain 3 on top of that box, and we will start it just like we do any other box. 1, 2, 3, 4 chains. So now we're going to do the puff stitch, okay? So the puff stitch, you're going to yarn over about 10 times and then pull through all of that. So that it makes a really nice poofy stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, and for the first time I'm going to go through the stitch. Again, this is going to help hold my stitch more in place in the center of that stitch. So there, that's one yarn over, and I like to pull it up and try to get this little stitch here twisted back out. So that's one. And I'm going to yarn over 2, and I'm going to go under for all the rest of them, under the chain. That's 2. And this little thing can get in the way, so I like to fold it back just like that. So 3. You want to make sure you're pulling that chain up really good when you do that, because it can get shorter and shorter as you do it if you don't. So that was number 3. And we got 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. It's getting really fat, y'all. 9. And 10. Lots of yarn on our hook now. Okay, so in the blog post I say something about smooshing it. What I'm talking about is this. Just kind of flattening this out a little bit. It's going to make it easier to pull through all of that yarn because it can get hung up really easily. So I'll pull it and I turn my hook. Try to keep your hook down as you go through the loops so it doesn't get hung on anything. And make sure you pull through that very last hook just like that, okay? So, and then you're going to pull it as close together as you can and make that one single crochet. There is our first puff stitch or bump. And I know that's a lot of yarn to put on your hook at one time, but it makes a really nice prominent bump because C2C has lots of texture already, so I wanted it to really stand out. So, and once you've made that bump, all you do is slip stitch into that next chain 4 at the top of the box and then make your last box. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble over the chain, 1 treble into the chain. Oh yeah. And then this yarn is not pulling good from over here. 1 treble around the chain again. There we go. Alright, that is row 3 done. And you can see how that makes a nice fat little bump. I really like the way that stands out in the pattern. So that was what I was going for. Alright, so now we're going to start row 4, which is just a row of boxes. So we start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to this 5th chain from the hook, a treble, and then treble in the next 2 spaces. And hook to this. Make our next box, which is just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around. 1 treble through. My yarn is getting tangled. And 1 treble around. Okay, And then, okay, so now we're to the place where the bump is. And so that first chain 4 that we did acts just like the chain 4s across the tops of your boxes. This one is just on the top of your bump or your puff stitch. So you just slip stitch into the front of it and make your box as usual. If I can catch the thread. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around, 1 treble through, 1 treble around. Alright, slip stitch to your next box, chain 4, 4, and making our last box. 1 treble around, 1 treble through. Oops, lost my stitches. And then 1 treble around. Alright, and there is row 4 complete. So now we'll do our row 5, which is the first row with the crocodile stitch in it. Okay, I'll try to untangle this yarn a little bit more. It's awkward. Still not used to crocheting on a table, y'all. Alright, so now just start our box as usual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Treble in the 5th chain from the hook. And in the next 2 chains. Come on. And now we're going to slip stitch to that first box. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we're at the point we're going to make our first scale. Okay, we made our first box. We started this like we do any other box with our chain 4. Now we're going to put a V-stitch in, which is what you make the crocodile stitch on top of, basically. So it's a treble in this case. And I'll start my treble with 2 yarn overs, and I'm going to go into, try to insert your hook in the middle. It's about the 3rd stitch, at the middle of the chain 3. And again, this is to help lock it and keep it from sliding around and be more like a B stitch. So we make that first treble, and we chain 1. Then we're going to make the second treble. We're going to go around the chain. Alright, so now we have, you have this first chain 4, which is important because that's what you're going to attach the boxes that come on the other side to. So, and then we have our V-stitch right here, okay? If you've ever done a crocodile stitch, this works the same as a crocodile stitch does. It's just inside corner to corner, and I've changed the stitch length a little bit. So this is what I'm calling our first leg. It's the last treble crochet you did, but it's the first leg because it's the one we'll start with. So I like to bend my work like this so I can focus on this leg. I'm going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is like a first treble. Then I'm going to do 2 trebles around this leg. 1, 2. Alright, so now you have 2 trebles around the leg. And I'm going to do 2 double crochets as well. 1, 2. So now, we look at this. I'm going to lay it back out. So, we went across this leg. We did chain 4, which counts as the first treble, 2 trebles, and 2 double crochets, okay? So now we've got to come back up this leg. So I'm going to rotate the work around just like this. Okay. I'm going to do a chain 1. I'm going to rotate it slightly again so I can get to this second leg, which is actually the first treble you did in your V-stitch. The second leg. And I like to put my fingers in there and kind of hold that stitch up so I can get to it. So we're going to put 2 double crochets first because we're going backwards on this leg. 1, 2, and then 3 trebles. 1. All right. Stay on the hook. 2, 3. Okay. All right, so let's lay this back out so you can see it. This little thing poking out in the middle is that chain 4 in the beginning. Push it to the side. Okay, so now you can see we've made a crocodile stitch in one of our boxes, right? This is our first box. Technically, this is our second box. Okay, so with most crocodile stitches, you would continue going back down to make your crocodile stitches, but we don't want to do that. We want to make our next box, which is over here. So we've got a slip stitch across the top of this crocodile stitch so we can get to this next, or technically this box. No. So we can slip stitch to this box and make our next box. Okay. So we're going to put 3 slip stitches on this side, 1 in the center, and then 3 on this side for a total of 7 slip stitches. I'm going to slip stitch, just pick through one of the loops on that last treble and make 1, 2, and the third one actually goes in the top of this chain. I know that's a little weird. 3, and then we're going to go around the chain 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are the chains in the beginning of the crocodile stitch. So 5, 6, 7. All right. So now we're back to this corner. You want to be in this corner, right? 7 gives you the best spacing, and I don't like to go around the stitches because I like that it gives it a complete border. If you can see all those stitches. So then we're going to slip stitch to this box right here. Okay. So slip stitch, and then we're just going to make the box like we usually do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 treble around, 1 treble through, 1 treble around. All right. And slip stitch to your next box. 1, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're ready to make our second, our second crocodile stitch. Okay. So I'm going to go 1 treble through the center of the chain. Chain 1, and then a treble around the chain. Uh-oh, I don't want you in there. Okay. There's our V-stitch made. I'm going to fold this little guy under so he's not in the way. Then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our first treble. We're going to make 2 more trebles. 2 more trebles around this first leg of the V-stitch. 1, 2, and then we're going to put 2 double crochets. 1, 2. That gives us the first side of our crocodile stitch done. We're going to rotate the work. We're going to, sometimes I like to slide these stitches a little bit to make them more even. And we're going to chain 1. Alright, we're going to come back up this one. So we're going to rotate it a little more. Pull that stitch up. Then we're going to do 2 double crochets around it. Because we're going backwards. 1, 2, 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3. There we go. My hook doesn't want to stay in my thread today. Alright, now there's our second crocodile stitch for this row. Okay. Now we're going to slip stitch back to the opposite corner again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, and we're back to that other corner, and we're going to slip stitch into this corner and make our last box. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around, 1 treble through, and then 1 treble around. Alright, that is row 5 made with our 2 crocodile stitches in there. Looks very much like scales. That's why I wanted a more rounded look. Crocodile stitches can be, they're usually double crocheted all the way, and they maybe have a more pointed look to me. I wanted a scale, so that's why I changed up the stitches a little bit. So now we're going to make our number 6 row, and I'm going to show you how to do the box row behind the crocodile stitches. Okay, so here we go. Start this off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Treble in the 5th chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope y'all can't hear that. My sleeve is rubbing on this or something and making a weird noise. Anyway, treble in the next 2 chains. 1, 2, and we're going to, now we're kind of on the back of the work. We're going to slip stitch into that first chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around. 1 treble through. 1 treble around. Then we will slip stitch. Okay, so now we're to the crocodile stitch, okay? And it can be confusing because you got this little flap hanging up here, but what you want to find is that chain 4 behind it that you started that crocodile stitch with, okay? And it's right behind there. It kind of pokes out a little bit, and you want to find that. And hold on, let me fix my thread. I didn't catch all my thread on my hook. There we go. All right, so that's going to be like this, the same as the chain 4 on the top of a regular box. So you're going to slip stitch to that, the very beginning, okay? Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can just continue making your box as normal if you prefer, or you can do what I'm going to show you and catch onto this flap of the crocodile stitch to make it lay flatter. So for this one, I'm going to go 1 treble around, then I'm going to do my 1 treble through. But before I pull my stitches up, I'm going to grab, this is the flap, yeah, and you turn it in that very top corner of your crocodile stitch. Just going to go through those loops and catch it with your hook, right? Then you'll pull your loop through that and the chain 3, or the chain 4 that you inserted your hook in. Then you'll finish your treble. Okay? And so then you've got this chain left here, so you'll do your treble around. So all we did was we did the box exactly like we normally do, except when we did that middle stitch that we go through the chain, we also went through a stitch on the crocodile stitch just to try to make it lay a little bit flatter. And you may not want it to lay flat, and that's fine, so you don't have to catch it. On my cowl, I did some like that and some not like that, mostly because I wasn't paying attention. So it just gives a different look, and I'll show you that in a minute. So let's make this next box. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around. 1 treble through, 1 treble around, now we're going to find that chain 3 again behind our crocodile stitch, slip stitch to that, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for this one, I'm not going to grab the crocodile stitch. I'm just going to continue like I would for any other box. 1 treble around, 1 treble through, 1 treble around. Slip stitch to our last box. And chain 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 treble around, 1 treble through, 1 treble around. All right, that's the end of row 6. I'm going to flip the work over. You can see the front. All right, so now you'll notice that this crocodile stitch, you can still see this stitch on top, but it's not curling out like this one is, because I didn't catch the top of that one, right? And these tend to want to poke in, so if you catch that one stitch, it'll help keep it out a little bit more. But this also has a different look to it, so that's just, you could do it either way. You can catch the stitch when you do that block, or you can not catch it and have it sticking out. It's really however you prefer to do it. I think it still looks nice either way. So that is the first 6 rows of the cowl. And really you just continue on in that manner. The next row will have bumps in it. And the chart will tell you, basically you start with a regular box, then you have a bump. Regular box, bump. It's every other box is a bump on the rows. And then you would have a row of regular boxes, and then you have a row with the scales, and it's every other one. The beginning one is always a plain box. So, and then once you get to the width, a certain width, you'll start just building it up as you're doing corner to corner, and then you'll, of course, decrease and come back down to the other corner like this. In the pattern, the way I finished this was just with a reverse crochet or crab stitch. It's just like a crochet stitch. You're just, I guess I can show that a little bit here. Because normally you would work in this direction. Well, if you're right-handed, you're going to work in the opposite direction when you do a crab stitch. So you would find whatever you're going through, just like that. You'd pull it up just like you would do a single crochet and pull through it, and then you just keep going backwards. So you're just doing it backwards. That's why it's called a reverse crochet, a reverse crochet, or some people call it a crab. And you can see it just gives a different look to the stitch because the way you're pulling the thread. And you would just keep going back like that. And what I did in the pattern, there are instructions in the pattern. I did a reverse crab. Once I got to the opposite corner, you're actually going to end up here. So you slip stitch back to this corner. And then you go along the long edge with a crab stitch. And then once you get to the other end, you fold it in half, slip stitch the ends together. So then you're at the opposite end, and then you do a crab stitch around. So I did it that way because I don't like to break thread if I don't have to. And when I did it that way, I only had 2 tails to weave in. One at the beginning and one at the end. So you can see, hold on. So this is the finished cowl. Of course, I haven't woven my ends in, but you can see the crab stitch along the ends. I just like the way that looks with the bumps and cowls. It gives it even more texture. So as you can see, these little, you can tell that some of these I have stitched down and some I have not. They do kind of disappear in there a little bit, but I still like the overall effect of the bumps and cowls. It gives it a nice texture. It looks kind of rocky or something. Yeah, I can't wait to wear this. We are having cooler days here, so that's nice. But this is a fairly light, soft yarn. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments, or you can email me. It's in the links below. I will link to the original blog post for this too. I would love to see everybody's version of this if you decide to make it. You can tag me on social media with hashtag Bumps and Scales Cowl and hashtag Teadoddles Makers. I also have a Teadoddles Makers Facebook group. You can put your picture up in there if you like. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoys this. I am planning on making a Ravelry page. Can't talk today. A Ravelry page for this. Hopefully before the end of the week. End of the weekend. It's already Friday. Because I'm still trying to work on bags. I didn't get that done. But I'll talk to you about that on Saturday in my podcast. So I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And I will see y'all next time.